So picture a room for a second. The lighting is, really bright and sterile. The floors are completely spotless.
Right.
And there's just this quiet, rhythmic scratch of a fountain pen on high quality paper. Maybe like the clinking of clean glassware somewhere in the background.
Sounds like a normal lab.
Exactly. You're looking at men in pristine white coats, and they're speaking in these calm, measured voices, meticulously recording data in leather-bound journals. I mean, it looks like a place of healing, or at least, a place of profound scientific progress.
Yeah.
But the scariest part about human history isn't what actually happened inside Imperial Japan's Unit 731. The scariest part is that the people in those white coats, they completely believed they were the heroes.
Yeah, it's such a chilling reality to confront because, it forces us to look at how the human mind actually operates.
Right.
We all have this comforting, almost cinematic idea that perpetrators of historic atrocities just woke up one day, looked in the mirror, and simply decided to be villains.
Like cartoon bad guys.
Exactly. We want the perpetrators to look like monsters.
Because if they look like monsters, we can easily distance ourselves from them, right? I mean, when we think of something as notoriously horrific as Unit 731, the mind just immediately jumps to, like, dark, damp dungeons and cartoonish sadists.
Right, right.
But the reality of those clean, well-lit rooms filled with educated doctors and scientists, well, it means we have to approach this completely differently.
Which is the core focus of what we are unpacking today.
Yeah,
Nobody joined something evil on day one.
yeah.
The gap between a brilliant scientist and, an architect of human suffering is terrifyingly small once the guardrails of morality are quietly dismantled
Wow.
and replaced by military funding and patriotic purpose.
And that is exactly the mission for this deep dive. Looking at the stack of sources we have today on Unit 731, which, operated during World War II, we aren't just walking through a dark chapter of history.
No, we're really not.
We are launching an investigation into the psychology of compliance. We want to understand how brilliant, highly educated people just stopped questioning their reality and how they convinced themselves that their cruelty wasn't just acceptable, but like a vital necessity.
And to understand how a descent like that begins, we actually have to start by looking at the incredibly boring, aggressively mundane facade that hid the entire operation.
Right, the cover story.
Yeah, it is a masterclass in the banality of evil.
The official name of this facility really sets the tone, I think. I mean, it wasn't called the Laboratory of Human Torment or anything explicitly sinister.
No, not at all.
It was called the Epidemic Prevention and Water Purification Department,
Yeah.
which, I mean, it sounds like a mid-level city agency that just comes to your neighborhood to check the pipes and hand out public health pamphlets.
It's totally forgettable.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a title so utterly uninteresting that your brain just glides right over it. Absolutely no one would ever question what a water purification department was doing.
And the cover story was brilliant, specifically because it was rooted in a very real, very urgent global anxiety at the time.
Because of the Spanish flu, right.
Exactly. In the 1930s, the trauma of the Spanish flu epidemic was still incredibly fresh in the global consciousness. I mean, it had wiped out millions.
Yeah.
And furthermore, World War I had undeniably proven the devastating threat of chemical and biological weapons on the battlefield.
So protecting soldiers from epidemics was like a completely legitimate, high-priority military objective at the time.
It provided the perfect psychological anchor.
Right.
It wasn't just a cover designed to fool the public or international observers. It was the foundational logic that the people working inside the facility use to justify their daily operation.
It gave them a purpose.
A profound sense of vital purpose. They told themselves they were building the ultimate biological shield for the Japanese Empire.
But it's one thing to build a clever cover operation on paper, The sheer scale of this place proves how legitimate the Empire considered it.
Oh, the scale is staggering.
Yeah, this wasn't some hidden basement laboratory operating off the books. They built this massive complex in Pingfang, which was a district of Harbin in Japanese-occupied Manchuria.
And the geography there is actually a critical piece of the psychological puzzle.
How so?
Well, setting this up in a puppet state like Manchuria removed the facility from the polite society of Tokyo.
Huh. Out of sight, out of mind.
Precisely. It was far enough away for the general public not to notice, but Harbin was a major railway hub. That meant they were perfectly connected to a vast supply chain, ensuring they could bring in whatever and whoever they needed without drawing local attention.
They essentially built a small city completely dedicated to systematic suffering. I mean, according to the sources, we are talking about a campus-sized facility spanning 6 square kilometers, featuring 150 purpose-built
It
buildings.
was massive.
And they had a massive budget approved by the military, 10 million yen, which translates to roughly $200 million in today's currency.
Yeah, a massive influx of cash.
So this wasn't chaotic violence. It was evil managed with a spreadsheet. They tracked expenses, routed requisitions, and they even calculated ideal fuel-to-body ratios for their incinerators to maximize thermal efficiency.
And that administrative layer, it acts as an emotional buffer.
Right.
You have an accountant somewhere in a warm office processing the paperwork for refrigeration equipment.
Just crunching numbers.
Right. That accountant doesn't have to look at how that equipment will be used to freeze living people. They just have to make sure the columns on the ledger balance.
God, and they even had a cafeteria. The sources mention these doctors would just clock out, sit down with their colleagues in a normal dining hall, and just chat about their weekends or complain about administrative red tape over lunch.
The cognitive dissonance is staggering.
It really is. Which brings up, probably the most uncomfortable question. If the facility operated like a modern, high-end corporate R&D park, where do you find the thousands of willing participants to fill those laboratories?
You find them at the very top of the academic ladder.
What?
The mastermind behind it all, Shiro Ishii, was not some fringe radical. He was a medical doctor, an army surgeon, a microbiologist, and he was educated at Kyoto Imperial University.
So he represented the absolute intellectual elite.
Exactly. He was highly charismatic and deeply ambitious.
Yeah.
And he essentially convinced the empire's military brass that ethical constraints were just a form of scientific inefficiency.
But Ishii might have been the architect, but buildings don't conduct experiments. He needed a massive staff to execute this vision, and he ended up commanding around 3,000 people.
Yeah, 3,000 educated professionals.
And here is where the psychological framework really begins to snap into focus for me, because those 3,000 researchers were not forced into service.
No, they were not.
Wait, hold on. Let me just unpack this for a second, because, it's one thing to be drafted into a war, put on the front lines, and forced under threat of a court-martial to do terrible things. Are you saying these elite doctors didn't have a gun to their heads?
No gun to their heads.
They weren't assigned to Harbin against their will.
Not only were they not forced, they were actively competing for the positions.
Wow.
The brightest medical minds from Tokyo Imperial University, Kyoto Imperial University, and other elite institutions fought for assignments at Unit 731. We have the actual sources, professors writing glowing recommendation letters for their top students.
Like normal reference letters.
They read exactly like modern reference letters. Like, Hiroshi Tanaka has shown exceptional promise in his studies, possesses a brilliant analytical mind, and would make an excellent addition to your department.
That is wild. Think about the last time you chased a major promotion or fought for a prestigious internship. You polish your resume, you lean on your mentors. That is the exact energy these young doctors brought to Unit 731.
Yeah, ambition.
And the corporate structure inside reinforced that ambition. The sources show they had quarterly performance reviews. They gave out internal awards that essentially functioned like an Employee of the Month incentive program.
And this highlights the first major psychological mechanism in how normal people adapt to doing terrible things. The power of authority combined with moral licensing. When the ultimate authorities in your life, so the emperor, the military high command, and your deeply respected university professors, when they tell you that this specific work is absolutely vital for the survival of your nation, your ambition completely overrides your moral compass.
The green light from the top acts as a blank check for your conscience.
Yes. In psychology, this is known as moral disengagement. The researchers looked at Unit 731 and didn't see a torture facility. They saw an unparalleled career accelerator.
Right.
They saw unlimited military funding, an endless supply of test subjects, and zero ethical oversight to slow down their research publications.
It's terrifying.
The promise of career advancement, wrapped in the flag of patriotism, created a blinder so thick they simply stopped processing the reality of what they were doing to other human beings.